Hi, listener. This is From Ideology to Unity, a spiritual journey where we let go of ego and ideological doctrine in favor of meaning, purpose, and unity as a whole. Today I'm interviewing Amy Fournier. Amy does fitness classes, is an author of a number of ebooks on holistic health, runs a blog, and even a podcast, Awakening Aphrodite, about staying healthy in mind, body, and spirit from a holistic perspective. Her podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Overcast. So, hi, Emmy. How are you doing?
Hello, Nicholas. I am thrilled to be here with you.
So, why did you decide on the name Awakening Aphrodite as opposed to something like Athena, perhaps?
Yes. Okay, well, we could go into the goddesses, but basically, I picked those two words because they mean a lot to me, and I feel like they're quite symbolic. They tend to be kind of emotionally charged words for most people. They're a little bit compelling, if you will. And I had a lot of names that I'm sure you did as well that I kind of bounced around when I was trying to name my podcast. And I really wanted to feel a certain way when I said the name of my podcast, and I wanted it to imply certain things. So that's why I came up with Awakening Aphrodite. Like you mentioned, this show is definitely about holistic health and fitness, ways to be healthy, fit in mind, body, and spirit, and how we do that through nutrition and diet and exercise and lifestyle and mindset and our environment and all these very, very important things. But also, it is about helping people bring more balance to their masculine and feminine energy and to really understand how to tap into their true source of power, which is inside themselves, and to be more truly, fully, authentically who they are. So it encompasses a lot. And I feel like the word awakening implies to us that this is something that is already inherently inside of us. That my show, the objective is to just bring it out, to clear away all the cobwebs and the dirt and the dust and whatever's happened with trauma and programming and things that happen in our lives that might have just made us not be in touch with it, that this is inside of us. And we want to bring it out to life. So we're not about necessarily teaching people anything or dropping any major bombs. It's more about showing people that we all have these things inside of us. This is this primal wisdom, this higher self, this ability to connect with the universal all and the divine, and which has all the answers that we seek when we go within. So awakening. And then the second part, Aphrodite, well, that's a loaded term. Most of us are familiar with the most famous Greek goddess of all, and she was the goddess of beauty and love and creativity and fertility, but she was also a goddess of victory and prosperity, and a she ruled worlds. She basically was undeniable to all gods, all goddesses, and all mortals alike. Her power was legendary. That's why she is the premier goddess of them all. There were actually only three goddesses that were able to refute her ways, if you will, but everyone else was helpless basically. And the main reason why, when in my research that I found out, it wasn't her beauty, it wasn't her sexuality, her sensuality, which were very powerful in their own right. Okay, that we can talk about that.
Yeah.
But really, what was the key source of her power, her effectiveness, was her connection to herself and her unabashed ability to meet her own needs and be her own self. She prioritized her wants, her desires. She felt her feelings. She expressed her feelings. She honored her feelings. She respected her feelings. She didn't override them to be polite and do the right thing and all the shoulds. So she was very, very powerful for a lot of reasons. And I do feel, even in my own experience of my life, that I, like a lot of women I see, I've been in this industry over 30 years now, And in our culture, living in America as I do, we are very, very programmed in our masculine energy, which is super important. I want to make that really clear, Nick, to the listeners, that this is not about women better than men and men versus women. No, this is about helping people to conceptualize that we are all of it. We are both those dualities. We are the yin and the yang. They are both necessary and complementary to the other. The problem comes when we are living primarily, predominantly from one of those and not from the other. And that's where the imbalance happens, when we're too forceful, when we're too in our action oriented, when we're too logical, when we're too left brain without considering the right brain, the intuitive, the feeling, the unlogical. I don't know why I feel this way, or I don't know why, but I think this is what I should do, but I can't logic my way to the reason. The feeling self, the creative self, the loving, nurturing self, but also the very strong and wise self, someone that's tapped into themselves. So that's the balance between the masculine and feminine. And that's why I chose Aphrodite, because to me, she embodies all of that. People are a little bit familiar with who she might be. And she really helps to give the feeling of what I want my podcast to be about, helping people to do that.
Wow, that was a really powerful explanation. Like, there was much more to unpack there than I expected.
Yes, yes. Well, you're right. And there's a lot to unpack with those two words. I mean, we could have individual shows with each of those words, with the word awakening, right? I mean, what
Yeah.
I'd love to know what it even means to you and Aphrodite, and we have so much to learn from ancient wisdom, and I know you are very versed in this as well, and the cultures, and there's a reason why there's archetypes in there. They are what they are. There's a reason why there were gods and goddesses, and this theme, if you will, that transcends cultures, that is universally something that unites us all as human beings, is these themes. That's all that these gods and goddesses were, or these blueprints, if you will, that connect our life experiences regardless of how we're brought up, where we're brought up, when we're brought up. If it was 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 5 years from now, whatever, that they transcend time. They're timeless. So lots to unpack, you're right.
Yeah. So, I mean, we can come back to mythology and all sorts of things. Let's start with so so what's your backstory, I suppose, and how did you come to become so passionate about health?
Oh, that is a good question. Well, it's funny. Yeah, I go back quite a long way with that. Well, I was always a really active girl. I was very athletic, okay? But I was always really the one that tried the hardest, in everything in my life. I wasn't really that skilled or had all these amazing gifts or qualities, but even in school, I was always the one who just worked really hard and really just tried. And I grew up as kind of the cute, chubby girl, like kind of like a little bit heavy, but not really fit. I didn't identify with my femininity at all. I was actually a tomboy to beat the band. I actually wanted people to call me AJ instead of Amy because it sounded like it could have been a boy's name. I mean, I was super tomboy. To this day, I still actually am, but at least I think I'm a little more balanced in my masculine and feminine. And I don't, just let me just say too, hats off to anybody who wants to be completely tomboy. This isn't about a gender identity or any of that. It's about what makes you feel happy and like you are living your truth. Okay, my problem was is I wasn't living my truth. I do identify as a female and a male female at certain times, but I wasn't. I was totally squashing my whole femininity, and it led to me being definitely overweight, which led to different health problems. And bottom line was is I wanted to learn how to be healthier. And I will admit, I went into fitness for superficial reasons. I wanted to have the body. I wanted men to look at me. I wanted to have a good relationship. So in the 80s, I went after that Jane Fonda leotard, wearing a thong, that whole deal. I went into fitness. I started teaching fitness classes. I lost like 25, 28 pounds. My whole body changed. Literally, I had people saying, you have a different shape. Like I used to be more boxy, whatever. I got hourglass, I got the whole thing going on, and all of a sudden my life changed. And my dad got very sick, and we grew up being the kind of the weirdos on the block, if you will. Back in the 70s, we were the ones that had like the carrot juicer in our kitchen, and nobody would come to our house when we were kids because we had no good treats. We had like Cheerios. Back in those days, those were healthy because they weren't Fruit Loops with sugar and, artificial crap in them. So there was a combination of things, kind of like the perfect storm, that led me to the path of health and fitness. And like I said, I'm ashamed to admit, but it's true that personally it was more for vanity for me initially. Then it was more for health. I had thyroid problems, adrenal problems, I had major hair loss. I had, they thought I might have had a brain tumor at one point. I had some pituitary problems, which is another story. Yeah, I had some very serious health problems combined with my father's illness, which made us pursue alternative health and alternative options than the mainstream conventional system because he wasn't getting any help from mainstream conventional medicine. So we pursued all these different things. So that opened me up to this whole world of what now is more mainstream in all these different modalities of being healthy and fit and well, and how holistic it is, and how we view the body, mind, spirit as one organism. You can't treat a quote unquote lung problem or like lung cancer without addressing someone's whole self. You're just not going to have results. They're not going to stick, and they're not going to survive. So it was really this I got to answer your question. I got into health and fitness for a lot of different reasons, but it has evolved over time. And that what was initially for superficial reasons, just it at least opened the door for me to learn that, oh my God, I've got to address my brain. I got to address my feelings. I got to address the way I'm thinking and I'm shooting on myself and all of it, that it's so much more than just the physical shell of the body. And because all these other factors have to be included in order to truly get results. And I can tell you lastly that that's something I've realized now as I've gotten older and been in the industry a very long time. And now I'm over 50. And I've really learned that more than ever, you have to address everything. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. There's no way it's sustainable. And I'll tell you one last very important thing. It sure ain't a lot of fun, right? When you're trying to be quote unquote disciplined and doing all these different things and, having a salad with free range chicken on it rather than, I don't know, a big sub or whatever the hell it is, that you've got to get into your why and your reasons and how you want to feel in your life, and know that the power is in your hands to control how you look and feel. It's not normal part of aging to be decrepit and for your body to ache and be painful and your joints to swell and to be on 2 or 3 medications and to lose all your hair and have no sex drive and not feel vivacious and energetic and passionate and engaged. Those things are not normal. They might be typical in this day and age, but that's sad. And that's why you and I are in business, because we want to help show people that no, there's another way to be and live. It's all about your mindset, what you believe is possible, what you expect to happen, and how you live your life to make it happen. And
Right.
in no way possible is the first part.
Well, there's a lot. I have to say that it seems like you know everything with health and life, it all fits together in a synchronized and synchronistic way. Because the story that you told sounds like things happened a certain way for a reason, to point you in certain directions, right? Towards health and then towards a holistic approach and ultimately towards spirituality. And also another thing I feel like I just have to mention is that I was I'm surprised to find that you're over 50,
Yeah, 52. I'm actually going to be 53 in like 2 months.
which shows that a holistic approach is definitely good for staying youthful.
Thank you.
Right. So when it came to when you were a tomboy and you didn't respect your feminine side, why was that exactly?
Well, that's a big answer. It was a protective mechanism, and it was due to some trauma that had happened to me as a young girl, and then going on to school and some things that happened. So some deep trauma that happened that I basically disconnected from that part of myself, and I didn't want to attract attention. I dimmed my light. I didn't want any of that kind of attention to help protect myself. So, um, plus that combined with the family I grew up in New England, and we had a very strict, like many families, work ethic, a very strong Puritan work ethic that, and like I mentioned earlier, kind of in the American culture, it's changing now a little bit, but it really valued the masculine qualities of push it, work hard, don't feel. You can't have the luxury of thinking how you feel because then you might not do what you should do. You have to do the right thing and you have to sacrifice. And even growing up Catholic, it's all about, well, first of all, the Garden of Eden and women being the source of sin right there. I mean, it's not okay to be female, it's shamed. And then growing up, sinful as a person, it's just because you're born with original sin. I mean, so there was kind of, again, a perfect storm of different things that in my life that made me really want to really, I don't, it was more than downplay the feminine side of me. It was just completely just nope, give it the big hand, the big Heisman. No, 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 no. you know and lastly, my dad really, really rewarded any masculine qualities that I had. My again, it's kind of a loaded issue, but it just was the reinforcement. Things in our
Yeah,
lives,
yeah.
those values were not reinforced. If I did anything at all that was feminine, like I remember one time I shaved my legs and I kind of got berated for it because like, what are you doing? And
Mm.
anything at all that was feminine was very much poo-pooed, and the opposite was true for the masculine. So of course, we want approval as children, right? We want love, and so I went down that road.
Thank you for telling that story. I mean, you didn't have to. So,
Well, trying to be honest and maybe can help people, and trying to be brave and speaking my truth, I guess. So
yeah.
putting it out there, it is what it is, right? It's my story.
It sounds a bit like when you first got into getting a lot fitter, that was actually the first step, perhaps, in getting in touch with your feminine side. And then from there it later became more about the emotional side of things and then the spiritual side of things. Is that
Yes,
accurate?
I would say that that is definitely true, Nick. And in addition to that, I just became more of all of me, is another way to say it. I allowed different parts of me to come through. Even though in the very beginning, especially when I started losing all that weight and was teaching classes, and I, started getting all this attention that I wasn't normally ever getting, um, it just started to kind of evolve itself into, like, I dressed different and I acted different, and it was kind of to your point of how it was, everything kind of happened for a reason to bring me to where I am now. I started noticing how the world treated me different when I was different. Like when my energy was different, when I was putting
Right.
something different out there, I get different things back. So, the
It's
old
the
law of
mirror
attraction
effect.
and all that, right? So dressing different, just all of it. And then I started seeing, like, I have more power over my life experience than I thought I did. Like I can control
Right.
my body. I can control who pays attention to me, who doesn't to a certain extent, you know what I mean? I can control how nice my skin is. I can control how my energy is, how my mood is. Am I tired after I eat? Am I grumpy? Am I craving sugar? Am I flipping out? I'm bouncing off the walls because I'm drinking too much caffeine. I started learning, I started putting together the pieces of, wait a minute, I can control more than I thought. Not that control is always a good thing, but I hope you understand my point. And that's what really led to
You can
my
affect it. Yeah.
work.
What's interesting to me is so you look at mental health, the factors affecting mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, all in a holistic way. And if you consider the law of attraction, right, is it, does the law of attraction apply to the actions we take, not just the attitude we have or the mental side of it?
That is a $1 million question. Yeah, I would say that to me it is definitely both. But you know, like that Quaker saying, pray but move your feet, right? You can't just intend something and say, I want it, I want it, I want it, and not do anything. To me, we show the universe that we're serious when we put the labor, the action behind the word. Okay, so first there's the thought, then there's the word, then there's the deed, right? You can't have one piece without another piece, right? You cannot have a thought, or you're not going to have a word without thinking about it. You're not, you know, so you need to have all those components for then the universe to match it. And I
Yeah.
do feel that the universe does match in kind with what we put out there.
Right.
Sometimes
And that can
though,
be energy, and the energy can be in your actions or your words, right? Or your whatever. Every aspect of your life is energetic. So,
you got it. You got it. I mean, and that's what we're discovering more and more, and science is finally starting to catch up with backing up that that is in fact true. It's hard for us to conceptualize because, you know, the things that we that's what makes us human though, is our five senses. Our five senses are the ego connection to life. And if something is not in our five senses, the traditional five senses, people have a hard time really believing they're real, true, whatever, or powerful. And but I always tell my students and my followers or whatever is, you know, just consider the law of gravity. Do you see it? Do you feel it? Do you even understand it? Do you even know how it works? Well, you don't need any of those components to believe that it actually is a thing. It actually exists. It is actually powerful. It is actually affecting you. You just aren't even aware of it from your day to day basis because our five human senses can't really sense it and experience it in our ego state, if you will.
so yeah, that brings us to the issue of quieting the mind and opening your heart, I suppose. I mean, the first thing is there's this idea that, when you quiet the mind, the silence speaks, right? What would you have to offer about that?
I love that. Well, I will admit again, this is like a confession session or something, but I have a hard time with the quieting the mind thing. You know, it's especially, you know, I've always been very ambitious. I'm a very engaged person. I bring it, you know, I'm all in, you know, I want to feel it. I want to slay that dragon. I want to experience it. I like to say I'll do anything once, got me in trouble, but you know, and it's hard for some people to quiet the mind. It certainly is for me, but it's a requirement to be able to tap into your feminine sense is to quiet that monkey mind, because our intuition, our feeling body is the feminine energy, and it is a major, major part of the way spirit communicates with us is through feeling, physical feeling, innate feeling, sensory feeling, not, and that's not a mental, analytical, intellectual process. So one I need to work on more for myself, but I've started doing that for now probably about 19, 20 months. Every single day, I start my day with my Tai Chi practice, my prayers, I do my tarot, and I have my quiet time in the morning. Sometimes it means I have to get up at ridiculous hours to do so. I usually need about a half an hour. I also roll my back on my foam roller, which is a physical thing. But as you know, it's all related. Like you mentioned, if your spine is out of alignment, it's restricting your chi flow, your energy flow through your vehicle. So you have to keep your body fit in order to facilitate the spiritual, emotional energy to to flow through your body properly. But just to not lose track, but to answer your point, so I have developed a practice. It was almost like I played a little game with myself. I'm not one to meditate, okay, because I'm too much of a doer. So I said, all right, I'm going to commit to every single day. I will do my Tai Chi practice, my prayers, my gratitude, whatever, even if it's literally 2 minutes. And let me tell you, there's been many days I don't feel like it. There's many days this is stupid. Nobody even knows I'm doing this. But I know. And I try to do it outside because, and we can talk about this, the connection with nature facilitates everything. Definitely barefoot because of the physical connection with the magnetic polarity of the earth. And it's something that has changed my life. And to real purist, that is not quieting your mind, right? Because I'm feeling and I'm sensing, but I am connecting with my source. I am connecting with my soul every single day, and I start the day that way. Before I look at my phone, well, I do look at my phone to make sure no one called me or texted me and someone's in a car accident, but I do not open the phone. I don't check email, social media, any of that until I've had my time to connect with my soul and myself and to remind myself of that connection, that support that I have, and to bring into my awareness in my day, my being, what I would like. Bring in the love, be more of the love, be more of my true self, be of service to the world, not forget about myself. And then I do my Tai Chi practice, my breathing, which is more of a Qigong because it's a moving breath. And then I do the rest of my day. So that's kind of how I kind of get around it, Nick, and make it a lifestyle for me. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I know meditation's great. And a lot of people swear by it. I've done it. I've taught guided meditation classes. I get it. But I'm not going to sustain it. It's just not really, it doesn't do it for me. So this works for me.
What you described sounds like if it's not meditation, it certainly does the same job.
Oh,
So,
good. I'm glad to hear that. Well, it definitely has changed my life.
right, even a
No
little
question.
bit, right? Even just a little bit, even 30 seconds of gratitude probably makes a huge difference to your life. Like, I mean, we are not exactly, we still have issues with erasing thoughts or whatever, right? And yet we made a lot of progress. I would like to, I would hope so anyway. So, I mean, it's, if it feels intimidating doing meditation on this, that, and the other, just start small. Start really small, and you will be surprised how much of a difference it makes. And it just, the more you get used to it, the more we snowball our awakening, I suppose.
Right on. I wish I could give you a high five through the screen. That is right. There you go. That is right on the money. I totally agree. And I say this to my students and people all the time that, you know, everything matters. There's so many people, Nicholas, in the world that are all or nothing. They're black and white. They're either on the train or they're off the train. You know what I mean? Like I fell off the
Yeah, I
wagon
was
type.
like that a lot.
Right. I would say probably most people. I am constantly trying to remind people that no, it all matters. If you have 5 minutes to stretch, if you ate one healthy thing today, it all matters. It doesn't have to be all or nothing because your body is always trying to help you be healthy, balanced, harmonized, and your best, most optimal self. Always. The trick is for us to get out of the way and stop screwing it up.
And how do we avoid guilt for not being as healthy as we can be?
Well, I guess you have to think about what are you guilty about? Like, is it something that are you intentionally keep doing the same behavior and it's making you feel guilty. I guess I'd want a follow-up question like, what do you mean guilt? Guilt from what?
Oh, well, I mean, just if someone wants to be healthy but they find themselves doing things they know aren't necessarily healthy, or they know they could do more for their health, I can imagine they might hear about all these things we can do for our health, but they might actually start feeling guilty when they're not doing it, or doing it out of a sense of guilt. And I feel like guilt's a very low frequency emotion, and it's a potential, maybe it's a potential pitfall.
Hmm. That's such a great question. I would say, you really have to get in touch with your why. Like, why are you doing it? And for me, one of the biggest challenges I've had as a health and fitness professional is it's a catch 22. I wish sometimes I could just wave a magic wand and people to be fit, healthy, and feel amazing and look 15, 20 years younger than they are and just can't believe how sharp their mind is and how beautiful their body is and how energetic they are and what it is to sleep well. I wish I could just wave a magic wand for 5 seconds because to me, that is the most motivating, attractive thing to your power, to your resolve, to the way that you choose to structure your life and your days is when you feel that way, it is the most compelling thing because you know what it's like to feel and look that way. And you know you don't have to settle for less. The catch 22 is the majority of people are used to feeling like crap. It's the new normal, right? And again, like I mentioned earlier in our show, that they just think it's part of getting older or part of this or part of, they just accept it like normal. It's not normal. Okay? So to me, a big part of the motivation in not feeling like it's a sacrifice or anything like that, and it is very enjoyable because I like being fit and energetic. I want all that kind of stuff. That's my motivation. So when I find myself making choices that I feel bad about, because we can always do more, right? Like, I mean, come on. I can always eat better. I can always stretch more. I don't really need to work out more because, like I mentioned earlier, I've been an athlete. That comes naturally to me. I need to move my body or I go crazy. But there's a lot of things I need to do more, like meditate more or whatever, or just be more in control over my emotions with certain people that trigger me. We can always do better. So when I feel like I'm feeling that guilt, I feel like it's time for me then to get still and quiet and go within and think about my motives, who I want to be. Who do I want to be in this world? And putting my money where my mouth is. Otherwise, I need to shut up, right? Because if I'm saying I want it, but I keep doing things that are counter to it, I need to really analyze, do I really want it? What do I want more? And I need to be educated to know that what's working and what's not. Being open-minded, because if you keep doing a certain thing and keep getting what you keep getting, that's the definition of insanity, right? It's time then to open up your mind to maybe there's another way. Maybe this is not working for me. I need to find the thing that does, and that means I don't know everything. I need to be open. I need to accept that maybe my ideas of how it should be or could be or is wrong and be open to learning something new.
Okay, so a key theme here is making it more difficult for ourselves as opposed to living with ease. And that's a key theme, one of the themes that I've seen on your website. So how do you explain living with ease and how it relates to self-care?
How do I explain
Living with ease and how it relates to self-care.
dealing with ease,
Living with ease.
living with ease, and how it relates to self-care? Um, well, I would say just getting really clear on your values and what's important to you and living your values because so many times we say, being healthy is important to me. My family is important to me. Feeling, like I'm contributing to society is important to me. But then we look at our daily lives and our to-do lists and what happens month after year, and it's not matching up. That creates a lot of cognitive dissonance. That creates a lot of internal conflict, and which is the opposite of ease, right? So simplifying and and that's one thing that I think the pandemic and all these lockdowns and things that have happened in 2020 has done for a lot of people is it gave us a moment to press pause from autoplay and look at our lives and look at what's truly important to us. And we didn't even realize how important our connection with other people was, things we took for granted. So that is a value wake up call. And now we have an amazing opportunity in 2021 and thereafter to live our values, and that will bring ease because we don't have this internal conflict of me saying this is important to me, but this isn't a part of my life at all, or it's a part of my life that's totally neglected or whatever. So I'm not sure if that answers the question, but that's kind of how I'm feeling.
Well, it's definitely, I like the answer, even if it doesn't answer the question.
Okay.
And I feel that at this time, like, now the speculation and maybe evidence, people have talked about the what the elite, so to speak, have been trying to do to control our lives. And you've been also mentioning how the lockdown and everything has actually allowed people the opportunity to define, to be in the present and to find themselves. The opportunity and or maybe the necessity. And I wonder, it's like 2020 is the ultimate red pill, right? But it's also the ultimate way for people to find something deep within, truer to themselves, right?
Right on, 100%. That's what it's done. I find that in my experience, there's been kind of two ways, two types of reactions, two types of camps of people as a response to the pandemic, the lockdowns, and all those things. And one camp of people completely is flipping out. They're just totally living in fear. They're completely buying the mainstream narrative. They're just absolutely at wit's end. They just in a total panic about, total fear. And the other side is like what you were speaking about is it's given them a chance to kind of pause, reflect, which is a very feminine quality, which is what the moon is. The moon reflects the light, right? So reflection, to consider, to pause, to ponder, to bring within, to bring out themselves to the world of what is their world, what is important in their world, what are the choices that they've made, and now be able to redirect and make their world a little more in line with their heart and what is important. And boy, I don't have to keep doing that anymore. That was stupid. That doesn't mean anything anymore. I mean, look how many people were commuting, right? And, long commutes into the city, whatever, 2, 3 hours of rush hour traffic time. And that's been eliminated. And wow, they've gained 2 hours of their lives and they realize, like, I can work just as efficiently and effectively from home or remotely or whatever. So it's given people the opportunity to reconsider, to reflect, to go within, to clarify, and to now make new empowered choices that are aligned with their values and who they are and what they want the rest of their lives to be like. Now, don't get me wrong, there's obviously a lot of restrictions on that based to, lockdowns and whatever. But I'm just saying, basically, just to assess our own lives.
Right. So, is there anything you'd want to add about how to stay healthy and sane during all this social disorder and COVID?
Yes, don't watch all the mainstream media. And be educated and remember that I mean, it's funny, I have a blog on my website that lists about 12 different movies and documentaries that people probably want to check out before they disappear, of like oh gosh, help me
Wizard
with
of
one
Oz.
here. Yeah, well, Plandemic is one. I mean, there you go with Mickey Willis. I mean, there's um, the all the social media ones. The thing about Google, the thing about Facebook, the thing about how this narrative is so deeply controlled and contrived, and we need to follow the money. We need to understand that the media outlets, mainstream media outlets, are basically controlled by five groups of people. Five control billions of people's minds and beliefs.
Right.
Okay, and if somebody puts anything to the contrary, or nowadays even questions it, even if you question the narrative, you are labeled as a conspiracist and you are removed. Okay, people losing platforms. So there isn't a sense of, there is not an existence of freedom of speech anymore, freedom of, how about our right of assembly? And all of these things that we assume we have, we truly don't. So
I
people need to stay healthy. They need to consider the source of their information, question the source, be educated truly where the source is coming from, what motives the source might have, and that there might be other sources that are being silenced that they should know about.
right. Yeah. That, that's very positive.
Especially when it comes to health. I mean, look at COVID, Nicholas. I mean, everyone's talking about the vaccine, the vaccine, the vaccine. That's all you're hearing about on social media and mainstream media, TV, the government. It's all about finding the vaccine. Well, first of all, if you know anything about a vaccine, you know vaccines are not the answer to any illness, because pathogens just mutate and then we make different antibodies, and that's what viruses do. Okay, so the vaccine is certainly not the answer, and it doesn't save everybody. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the flu anymore, right?
Well,
We wouldn't have
the
any of these.
narrative is that, well, they need to have be on a constant. The science that we look up to has to be on a constantly vigilant to keep up with these diseases. But their answer isn't let's be working with nature. Their answer is let's master. They want to master nature, and the message to us is that they will keep on with the vaccines and they'll just keep up with it. And as it changes, they'll just bring out new ones. And that they will constantly be mastering that aspect of nature. And if that means we lose our freedoms, well, that's unfortunate. And it's a very convenient narrative. And it's really interesting how cunning they really are about narratives. It's psychological, the way they control us more than anything
Or
else.
brainwashing, brainwashing. Just read
Psychological. And it makes sense. If you wanted to control people, you focus on
the
affecting
narrative.
their mentality, affecting, and if we know about the law of attraction and aspects of reality like that, but you have negative intentions, well, you're not necessarily in touch with your heart. So maybe your ability to do it is impaired. But what you can do is you can affect other people's psychology and get them to create negativity for you. And that's the thing with conspiracy theories that we've got to watch out for. And I've, I haven't been perfect in this regard either. And that we can create negative possibilities that or manifest negativity by imagining it, right? And so if we get too afraid of, so we've got to watch out for what they're doing without being afraid of what they're doing.
And retain our own ability to analyze and think for ourselves and connect with the logical part of us. Is, does this make sense? I
Yeah.
love what you said. It was perfectly stated, exactly what's going on. I totally agree. Think of it this way. Isn't it peculiar that the only message we're getting from the upper ups, or higher ups rather, and government and the medical establishment is that we're looking for a vaccine? They are not considering any other possible treatment answer alternative. If they're so concerned about the health and welfare of people and humanity, where is all the help, information, resources, blah, 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 on being healthier? Where is it? Where's the information on how to
It's not
increase your immune system strength? On how to deal with emotional issues right now, how to deal with loneliness, mental illness, all these different things. And like I said, just being healthy and fit.
right.
Where is that information?
So
That is peculiarly absent.
it's absent and arguably even suppressed. And I wonder why. what I would suggest is perhaps that we can infer. I mean, some people would like to say, okay, you can't assume it's all intentional. In our speak, there might be incompetence involved. But honestly, the more I look into this, the more I feel like it all ends up in such a convenient way that if you look at their narrative, you can kind of infer the incentive. If there's none of this of what's actually healthy for us, and in fact, a lot of the advice is actually unhealthy because it means isolation, wearing like getting bacterial infections from masks and all this sort of stuff. They want us unhealthy. They want
Yes.
us isolated, miserable,
Yes.
depressed. They want us all the things. The way we have been people have been affected is exactly what they want because they control us better that way, right?
Totally agree, Nicholas. I've always been very attracted to you because your mindset and the way the way that you think and your beliefs are very much in line with mine. You usually say things much better than I do because I feel that same way. It's so sad but true. If they truly wanted us to be healthy, fit, and for humanity to overcome this and unite together, where's all the support? Okay, all I'm hearing is restriction, restriction, and now allowing or encouraging people to tell on each other and all this stuff, and then of course labeling each other and dividing people and bashing the mask wearers against the non-mask wearers. And should you try? I mean, it's just like what? Where is the unity that we come together? That this is a humanity problem. Where is the truth? When truth is suppressed, it should make you ponder. Like when you send someone to a website or give them one of these documentaries that are well scientifically researched and vetted, and they're now missing completely from Google and Facebook and all, it's going to make you consider, like, who's hiding something? Like, what do they have to hide? Right? Like, why is this missing? It's
Right.
got to just at least even question the mainstream narrative, and is it in my best interest, or is there an ulterior motive possibly going on? You've
Right.
got to consider.
But I do feel like there's good news. So, first of all, the more they do this, the further they go, the more they ramp up the bullshit, basically, the more and more people will actually wake up to that the things aren't what they seem. And so some people require shock to get out of their comfort zone. I mean, it often happens that way. Um, and actually start questioning things. If everything's just normal or how they used to do it, you don't necessarily change unless you're proactively changing already. So there's that. And it's interesting, the very things that they need to do to control us are the very things that allow us to break free of it. So it's a very risky game they're playing. And the real test is it's a test of humanity. Are we more inclined towards fear and control or love and unity? And only time will tell, right? But there's definitely the potential here that we're all I come across more and more people, and this is anecdotal, I admit, but I come across more and more people who are aware to what's going on or into spiritual stuff. Like I got a medical checkup the other day. The nurse she mentioned Joe Dispenza and that sort of stuff and the way the mind affects the body. And I was like,
That's surprising,
yeah. And there was
but
this taxi
encouraging, very
driver and he
encouraging.
was starting telling me about conspiracy theories and stuff. We had a great conversation. And 5 years ago, I can't imagine that happening.
Right. That's
So
encouraging.
yeah, I feel like it feels a little bit like we're at a knife edge, and I have faith that it's going to go in a positive direction, but I admit I do have some doubt. I mostly have faith, though. That's probably an unnecessary. It's probably all going to be fine, but it has to get to this chaotic darkness where everyone's unsettled, they don't know where they're going, for the people to awaken. Because fundamentally, the awakening isn't something that happens to us; it's something we do by getting in touch with ourselves, right?
Yes. Yes. Amen. 100%.
It starts within, and a lot of the time, even in spirituality, sometimes people can focus on like external idols or something external to save them.
A guru.
Yeah, a guru or Jesus or whatever. Like, and that's fine. I
Organization.
understand that people get in this mindset, but like, we've got to be in our own touch with ourselves and transform our own lives to see it making a difference. And in order for big, great change to occur, we ordinary people need to start changing. I mean, we're no longer in the age where there's some great leader who changes.
Yes.
When this is now the time for ordinary people to stand up and to
Yes.
become who they were really born to be, not simply a a broken down
Sheep.
person who sheep who. I mean, just not to be used in a derogatory way, but like, yeah, I mean, like, if if you're getting aging earlier and just conditioned to be afraid, and that's not the real way to live. Maybe the whole time for thousands of years, like we've been conditioned a certain way, and maybe it partly looks so dark right now because we're more aware of what's going on. There's actually more light shining on everything. Because if you think about like, if you look at the Middle Ages, like even even like before all this Corona stuff, like we're more aware of things. We're more aware of how bad things have been done, and we've heard about like secret societies and stuff, dark things going on. Do we really think that that's new? It's just that, so in a way, it's actually better, way better than it looks.
Because it's coming more mainstream.
It's just that things got better, and in an attempt to stop it, the awakening, they're trying to ramp it up so much and bring it back to the authoritarianism we used to have to stop it. But that just shows how far we've come. That
We're that much of a threat.
yeah, they're going back to it's not the new normal, it's the old normal. The new normal is this mass awakening of consciousness
Yes.
and everyone being liberated essentially from oppression and from themselves, right? Because we've been they get us, their use of psychology means they get us to do it to ourselves. They get us feeling guilty. We get us in low frequencies, and we contribute to it. Yeah, yeah. I know I'm meant to be interviewing you, but I was on a roll there. Yeah,
No, this is a give and take. This is a discussion. I love it. This is what we're here for. And I'm completely in agreement with everything that you're saying. It's the golden age that's coming, and it's self-actualization that's happening. There's a time and a place for us as humans to go outside of ourselves. We are social creatures. We learn by mirroring, right, our environment and our mothers, our parents, our culture. And so there's a time and place for going outside the self for answers. But I think what's happening now, at the end of the day, you have to then take what you learn from outside and put it up against what's inside and then apply it to your life, because not everything is going to work for you that works for this one, that one, the other one. Some things will, some things won't. Like, for example, why can they be vegetarian? Why can some people be carnivores? Why are some people omnivores? Why does this, fruit work for someone and that one, it gives them gas, bloating, and a skin infection? I mean, it doesn't mean something is inherently good or bad abstractly. It's all how it applies to you. So I think we're now at the point in our humanity, perhaps, that we are walking that line between looking outside the self, like we have traditionally done with a paternalistic society and organized religions telling us, the big man in the sky, what to do, and now considering outside of ourselves, but then ultimately weighing it against the inside and applying it to our lives, and knowing that your report card, how well you're doing, and if you got it right, is your body, is your energy, is your mood, is your physical, emotional, spiritual experience, is going to be your report card on if that works for you or not. Taking what does, leaving the rest, not judging other people, what works for them, but finding your own truth is that fine line between the outside input and the inside input, and making it your reality.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, yeah, that really.
Because,
That,
it truly is both, Nick. I'm not about bashing the paternal system. Right? Again, like I said, we as humans are born social creatures. We learn from the other creatures in our lives. And there's a time and place for that, but still not to the expense of then following your own path, finding your own truth, weighing it against your unique biology, your unique soul's mission, if you believe in that kind of thing or not.
hmm.
But you then have to take the outside and weigh it against you. There is no two snowflakes the same. There are no two fingerprints the same. There's no two zebras that have stripes that are the same. Nature only makes originals, okay? Even when we're one of a species, we are all unique and original, and we have to find our own path, our own unique equation to get to that evolutionary promised land, if you will.
Yeah, yeah, that's powerful stuff. So just to I feel like we could come to an end pretty soon. Actually,
Yes.
I'd happily interview you again though.
Oh, great. And you as well. I know that all my listeners are definitely going to want you back on my show.
All right. So the question is, like, you've talked about what is and isn't a strong woman, and what is and isn't a strong being.
Wow, that's a hard question to wrap up with, but I would probably say someone that is not basically doing and living and being the things that we're talking about right now in this episode, and in tapping into all of who they potentially are, and having the wisdom and the discretion to know when to wax and when to wane, when to give and when to take, when to go outside, when to go inside. A strong person is one that is solid in who they are and grounded from the inside out, isn't reactive and bouncing like a ping pong ball based on right the culture or what that one said or how that one looked at me, or reacting to that one being in a bad mood, and or that person cutting me off in traffic, right? They're not reactive, they're proactive, and they're centered in themselves and their core, and they're tapped into all of their resources. To me, that's strong, right? And I will just say too, it's also knowing when to be soft, because true strength is vulnerability. Putting yourself out there, say emotionally, spiritually naked, is the strongest thing you can do, right? Putting your own ego identity, putting it out there, willing to be evaluated and judged, critiqued, criticized, berated by other people, is an act of strength.
Putting ourselves on the line and being brave in the face of, well, we could just, I mean, we could just hide away and not do anything because out of fear, right? But fundamentally, is that even living?
Well, like I'd like to say, one of my favorite sayings is, I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. So, yeah, deep, right?
Yeah.
I
So
would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. And that's something I think all of our souls have to individually ask ourselves is, where am I compromising my soul? Where am I compromising? Back to our original discussion, my values. Am I living my truth? I say these things are important to me, but when I look back on my day, week, month, year, where was it in there? And every time we do that, every month, year that goes by, that we're doing that, a little piece of us dies every day. And we wonder why we medicate ourselves through food, drinking, drugs, shopping, working, right? I'm guilty of that, workaholic, right? Just, on that treadmill and placating that pain of, where am I not addressing my demons and my pain? And, that's a whole nother discussion. That'll be for show number 2.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot for that. That was a great way to end it. And it was a great conversation. So, well, goodbye and goodbye to the listener for listening to all of this. Thank you. All right. Yeah.